Hello, good evening, guys. I'm going to present you with the puzzles of 16 November, and here are them. You can see there are five of them: one, two, three, four, and five. Fifth one is a little hard, made in three, because it has a lot of material imbalance, and the rest of them are standard puzzles. So let's look at them one by one. First puzzle is this one, white to move. So this is this is a standard position which usually arises in the scholars made idea. Here you can basically mate in a variety of ways, but the simplest is just going forward with the pawns and then the queens. I mean, you need to give some sort of threads, continuous threads in order to get checkmate. Let's start with the first position of the day. Here, how should we think about this move? For example, if we go queen d5 check, then we have something like queen d5. If we go, let's say, for an example, then we have king d7, and then we can just play this, and then this move auto continues back and forth. But what we have to do actually is to, go for something precise, which actually blocks away the pathway of the king. For example, something more dynamic, like moves like knight f3 or knight c3. These kind of moves are slow, and even though they might lead to an advantage, but we will give some time for the black pieces to develop. One more possible option is going for d4, but again, it's not direct and very slow. So, in order to give direct attacks, we have to give certain sacrifices in. And on that note, let me introduce to you the new version, that is E5. This actually looks like an absurd move at this point, but consider the novelties here. If f takes e5, then queen d5 becomes a threat because king e7 and queen takes e5 is a not equal to, which means checkmate. King cannot move here, neither he can here or here. Sorry, and you know, king is trapped from all places. The f6 pawn was guarding as a shield to to this king, but now as he pushed e5, it has to take back, and this e5 square lost the control of that pawn, therefore enabling the queen to deliver a fantastic check. Let's say if king takes would have happened, then queen d5 is a direct checkmate. No escape squares for the king. So the correct answer is e5 check. Okay. Next position is this beautiful position which arises from England gambit. Uh, England, it can arise from various possibilities such as England gambit or even from Budapest opening. Sometimes it may also arise from Budapest opening as well. Zarowitz variation, Budapest opening. Okay, so here basically the structure is different. D4, E5, D takes E5. This might be possible one way, or another possible move is D4, knight F6, and then knight D2, E5. Okay, D cross E5, knight G4, and H3. Then also this move can come. Okay, so here, if I have given this position as a puzzle, then you might wonder what is the major special position in this, the speciality in it. For the first instance, you might wonder like, okay, Queen H4 is speciality because it attacks this F2 pawn, giving a checkmate threat, as well as if you take this pawn on H4, then Queen takes H1 is possible. For example, let's say I play Queen H4 here. Sorry, it's black to move, right? So let's say we have a Queen H4 on the board. Okay, let's say we play Queen H4 here. Okay, then you might think, okay, this is a attack on F2 pawn, and then if he takes H takes G4, then we have Queen takes H1, giving away, getting the rook for the knight. Okay, That's one thing. But you might miss the fact that there is a G3 which protects this pawn, as well as on the next move, as soon as you move your queen here, if you stay on this line, then white can simply play e4, attack this knight, and there is no way to stop it as well. You can just play d6 to prolong the initiatives, but once he plays bishop e2, you're out of moves here, and this knight is not going to be lost. So that's one thing. But another thing is, instead of queen h4, there is a stronger alternative. And basically, you have to just think that what can I play to hamper the development of the, uh, you know, disrupt the development of white pieces. So here, can you consider a move like knight e3? It is absurd, right? It is quite absurd to play this move. Why? Because you just think that this pawn can take this, and what's the point? Well, we discussed queen h4 a move ago, correct? If knight is on e3 and let's say we take this pawn, can the queen h4 now be very effective? Absolutely yes, because you cannot play g3 here as this f2 pawn is no longer on the f2 square. It has traveled to e3 and now queen takes g3 is a beautiful checkmate here. So correct answer for this puzzle is knight e3, a double exclamation mark for this move, and thereafter queen h4, g3 and queen takes g3 is a checkmate. I hope you understood the puzzles. Let's move on to the next position. Now, in this third position, if you see, this knight is attacking this queen, and this queen is breathing down the neck of the black king. If it were the black to move, I would have simply played queen f4 here, and thereafter king e1, queen e4, or even king e2, bishop g4 kind of moves are coming on the board. Okay, so basically, what we have to do is here, we have to create a strong uh, defense, basically. If you notice, black has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 pawns versus white has 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 pawns. But black has 3 pieces, light bishop, dark bishop, and knight. White has 4, this, and this. 4 minor pieces versus 3 minor pieces, but he's 2 pawns down as well. Plus, the development of the black pieces are also very superior as compared to white. This bishop is blocked, this queen is blocked, this bishop is blocked. The rooks are not moving, whereas black is like one move away from short castling or even long castling on the flank. Okay, so black is technically better here due to his higher development. But white also knows that if black makes one mistake, he's gone. And black has made a mistake here. So can you find out the correct move here? Basically, the thing is you have to think something direct, very direct. Can there be any possibility that this knight can capture on e4, provided this bishop gets driven away? There are some possibilities. Let's check out. Queen b3 is one possibility, but you know bishop takes e3 and b takes e3 is just simple. And thereafter maybe black can play long castle, you know. Castling is allowed as far as we know. And thereafter, even if he plays rook b1, then you have knight c5 check. For example, just say, let's say we play queen b3 now. Then you might play bishop takes c3 takes, and then after a long castle, you might have a threat of knight c5 here, basically. And if you play rook b1 kind of move, then queen takes b1 is obviously there on the rank. And basically, it's black to play. Black will have a much superior position at this point. Obviously, this knight d6 check is coming, so he will be wary of that. So he can also go for something like short castling as well. It will also, you know, does not allow this knight b6. Then you have queen b7 and something like rook f d8 works. Yes. So black is clearly doing fine here, even though white is a material now, but his development is poor, activity is poor. Next up, this rook is coming to b8 and thereafter b2. This game is not going according to the script for white. So queen b3 is not the correct move here. Can there be something more direct, immediate? I hope so. You can find it. It's knight d6 check. A very, very absurd, sharp, beautiful check. Actually, this queen is, forked along with this king. And therefore, the bishop is forced to take this knight. And now notice that this pin is no longer exist, and therefore you can just take this knight. And as a result, what has happened is black has to give up his queen in exchange of our two knights, and we were already a piece up, and now we are a queen up technically. So we are obviously in a better position now. And now normal development moves like bishop d3 following bishop g2 rook g1. Okay. And thereafter, like let's say you play bishop g5, you can just tear apart black with rook takes g7 followed by something like queen h5 or even queen g4. And now the rest of the game is very, very simple to convert. And this last bishop will be there. If he plays like bishop before, just go for king c2 and thereafter bd2, bc3, or even bishop f4, whatever suits you. You can just follow up the game. Okay, so that's the answer. Answer is 96 check and bd6. If he by chance goes the king here, and then you can take this. So basically, this threat is there. And if he takes the bishop, he will get two knights for his queen. That's the idea. Here's a fourth puzzle. Here there are possible three answers. And all the answers, point out to one common problem, that is the king side weakness of white. There is a concept called dark squares and light squares. If you see, this light square bishop on b7 is directly aiming at this h1 diagonal now. All we need to give is f2 check here. And this diagonal actually gets opened up. That's one idea. We can also open lines along this h file as well as g5. So the simplest is to go for the queen sacrifice. This absurd idea. Why queen sacrifice actually works here? It's basically a combination of factors. Firstly, if you give up the queen, your h file is getting opened. That's one thing. Okay. If you get this pawn, your h file is getting opened here. So now you can play f2 check, open this diagonal like a bazooka, and if he goes king takes f2, then you have rook h2, king g1, rook g2, and this concept is known as windmill, where rook d2, king g1, and you can just play rook c2 here. Sorry, not rook g2 now. You can just take this queen, and you are up a material. Up a lot of material actually. Okay, you are basically a knight up, so as to speak. That's one thing. And queen takes d3 on hindsight looks a very, very bad move. But if you combine the forces of f2, rook h1, and all those stuff, it's a very, very fantastic find. Another move, a direct f2, unleashing this. And if he plays king takes by mistake, then rook takes h2 is coming up on the board. King g1, queen g3. That's it. GG. Okay. So that's one thing. F2 and rook takes f2 looks like the only move. Thereafter, you go queen takes g3 again, and rook h1 is a checkmate. A beautiful checkmate to follow. Okay. And if he goes something like king f1, then we have something. Um, what should we play? Like rook takes h2 is very, very simple to play here. And it's completely dominatingly crushing win for white. Sorry, for black. Okay. So idea is you can play either f2 or you can play also queen g3. And there is a third move as well, which is rook takes h2. All these moves can be made interchangeably, but this is a bit tricky because you can have knight e4 as the best defense here, but sacrificing your queen. But you can go for rook takes c2 knight takes g5, followed by rook g2, king h1, and f2, again that same diagonal. Then after there is no choice, if they play something like rook e2, then rook g1 is a check as well as double check, leading to this only move king h2, and you can just take your rook here. So that's one thing. So there is no better move. Like knight e6 is one option, or even b5 is another option. But knight e6 is looks like the most promising one. And it's also very tricky because there is a possibility of rook f8 checkmate. So basically, you can just go knight d7. Let me show you on the board. If you by mistake go for something like, let's say, bishop, then you have rook f8 on the board, and that's a checkmate. But there is also a hidden thing that if you promote it to a queen, your rook cannot move to f8 because of the pin, adjoining pin to the king. That's why they have to take the bishop. Now they're threatening to checkmate. You can just play knight d7 or even knight a6, in future developing for c5. That's also fine. But knight d7 looks more practical at this point. So there are three alternate options. Queen g3, which is by far the simplest and the best. Rook h2 and direct f2 all lead to a very good position at this point. So that's the answer of fourth puzzle. Let's move on to the last puzzle. This is actually a puzzle in which you have to do a meeting three. So obviously, no correct answers for guessing the first move. It's queen c6. You have to attack this knight, and knight on a8, knight in corner squares are generally very terrible in nature. So knight queen c6, and if you go something like knight b6, there is no need to take this. Basically, you can also take, but you have king c4, and thereafter you have to play queen c6 again. There are all there are many kind of stuff here, and if you play b3, it's a stalemate. So you have to play something like carefully queen c2, then b3 and queen c3, something like this. So if you don't want to take, then you maybe go for something like waiting move here, and then if he goes knight c4, then there can be some problems. So if you go b3, b3 kind of moves also can work because the knight only has to move knight c4, and then this game goes like a long range battle. But this is not our option. We have to mate in three moves. So first move is queen c6, obviously, and if he goes knight b6, there is a very stunning idea. What you have to actually think is this king cannot move here, here, or here, controlled by the knight, or here, neither here. He has no squares to move on. So basically, if there are no, if there is any only one move which uh, the black can make, it should be a zugzwang. It should be a zugzwang. Zugzwang means a piece has to move or a pawn has to move, and there is no move for the king. Next move will be checkmate. On that note, there are several candidates here. Let's look at them briefly. Now you can just place this queen on a waiting square, but then you have knight c4 on the board. That's one problem. Then if you can try going for something like, sorry, rook e7 or rook e8, something like this, then also knight c4 on the board is happening, obviously. But you don't have this cushion of playing queen to c5 or queen to f6 is also not possible because of queen king c5. So the game stretches on. So what happens if we go anyway? If we go rook e5, can we tempt the big man into going into rook e5? Is knight c4 still not a possibility? No. Now see the difference here. There are three possibilities. King takes e5 leads to a direct queen f6 checkmate. That's one thing. And if you go something like b3, then queen c3 is a checkmate. And at the last, as I said, this knight c4 problem has to be solved. Okay. So this is meant by queen takes d5 checkmate. Notice that king cannot go anywhere forward. Either he can take the rook now, and all the doom is done. So here basically, if you move your rook anywhere else, knight c4 is coming, and you are not delivering a mate in 3 at this point anytime soon. So only way to deliver a mate in 3 is to go for rook e5 in this position, which is absolutely an insane and a beautiful move at this point. Because you can take in you can take in 3 ways. I mean, you can take in 1 way, but you can go in 3 ways. Still, all of them lead to a mate in 3 quite instantaneously. So I hope you would have loved the video session, and I hope you got something to learn as well. Please support with us. Please solve with us on a regular basis, and we'll share the results on the Nilgiri Chess Club channel. Thank you so much for watching. It's your loving brother Rohit signing off. Bye bye. Good night.